Carstairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan. So, is your network ready for the cloud? Good morning, my name is Wendy Carstairs. So just two things before I start. Wendy@cisco.com is my email address. I know, it is pretty cool. And secondly, Carstairs is my Twitter handle. And if you want to know how I got that, then I'll have a time to give you the story later on if you want to come and ask me. However, today we're going to take a look at some of the network challenges of moving your services to the cloud, and how Cisco can help you achieve your business case of agility and cost savings when you're moving services to the cloud by making sure that your network is cloud ready. And by using a cloud intelligent network, we can deliver a really cloud ready WAN. So let's take a look at this morning. Now we've got a couple of issues here, because whereas 50% of CIOs say that they estimate most of their services to be moved to the cloud by 2015, and 37% of those same people say that a cloud-ready WAN is the most critical piece of infrastructure to deliver those services, more even than a virtualized data center. However, at the same time, approximately 2/3 of those same people cite performance, security and policy, and management as key challenges in making sure that those services can be moved and that they're successful. So how can we overcome these? Because if we look at some of these challenges around performance, security and management, we see that they can really impact that business case. And again, if your business case is about agility, i.e. delivering services more quickly, accelerating time to deliver new applications, and if your business case is around cost savings, i.e. minimising that cost of startup and reducing your operational costs over the life of the cloud service, then we need to make sure that the performance, the security and the operational costs are appropriate. Because if we don't have the performance, then user experience will be diminished. And if user experience is diminished, then the service will not be successful in the time frame required. And again, your business case is not going to be realised. Now, most users will only accept a latency of around 50 milliseconds or less. And it's true that most branch offices will not sustain any more than 20 VDI sessions at one go. So how can we move these services and still have the user experience that's going to be necessary to make sure the performance is appropriate and the business case is realised? Now let's look at security. Now currently, around 90% of companies will actually backhaul all of that traffic that's due to go out to the internet through a central site. For obvious reasons, it's easier to secure one site than it is maybe a multiple branch site. But the downside of this is, of course, is that all your traffic is now going through one site to go out to those cloud services. So why not break it out of the branches? Because it becomes more difficult to secure. And at the same time, we can end up with these cloud islands where we really want the any-to-any connectivity, so that any user at any location connects to any service. Otherwise, we may not realise the other business cases going on around mobility and productivity. And thirdly, most of us know that operational costs and IT headcount have only gone down, and yet the complexity of delivering these services is going up. So we need appropriate management platforms to not only make it simple to manage and deploy services in the network, but at the same time give you visibility of what's happening so you can predict what you need to do before it happens. So how can we address some of these challenges? Let's have a look at performance. And again, let's think less about performance and think more about delivering an optimal experience to the user. Because end user experience is key. If the end users are not able to use the applications in the way they need to, productivity will go down and the service will fail. One thing we can do is use something called application visibility, or ABC as shown here. And application visibility allows us to look inside the traffic using NetFlow at the branch router on an ISRG2, for example, and see exactly what traffic is going where. Now we can make the best use of the available bandwidth by sending only business critical traffic to the place it needs to go. And in this instance, we can see that we are blocking YouTube traffic, but enabling the Citrix traffic to go to the data center service. In the same place, we can actually use performance routing. And performance routing is going to enable us to be very, very specific about what service needs to go where, and actually make the best use of the available bandwidth you have. Again, helping you realise that business case of cost savings for moving services to the cloud without having to invest heavily in more WAN bandwidth. Another thing you can do is to use WAN acceleration services. So WAS has been around for some time, but many people might not know that there are Citrix enablers within WAS now to help you reduce the WAN cost of Citrix services by around 50%. So now you can get improved performance for VDI sessions over the WAN through a scalable WAN acceleration service. And thirdly, let's look at survivability. So we have a concept now called cloud connectors. Now a cloud connector will take you a little piece of that cloud service, put it in the branch router, and either improve performance or improve survivability. So this example is something called HCS connector. HCS is hosted collaboration services. Fantastic, a cloud-based voice and collaboration service. But what happens when the WAN goes down? With an HCS cloud connector, we can use survivable remote site telephony plus some other services to make sure that people can continue to make phone calls, continue to collaborate, continue to use their IM present services even during a WAN failure. So survivability. Another cloud connector we have is called the WebEx node. Now the WebEx node can sit on high usage WebEx sites. So WebEx is one of the biggest software service cloud services in the world. And if you've got heavy users, you will know that an awful lot of WebEx traffic can go out over your internet service. Now wouldn't it be nice if you could do some of that processing and control on your site, and you can do this with the WebEx node cloud connector. It will sit on the ASR router and can prevent up to 90% of that traffic going out over the internet and keep it within your domain. Again, cost savings on WAN bandwidth. So let's look at security. Now, security really needs to be more distributed, but you also want the same security in your cloud service as you do with services that might sit within your same data center. So how can you achieve this if you're moving those services to a cloud that's outside of your control? Well, now we have this very, very cool platform called the CSR, or the Cloud Services Router. Now this really is pretty cool. It's a full Cisco router delivered on a VM. Fantastic. So if you put your services into perhaps a hybrid cloud service that's outside of your control out over the internet, but it has been segregated to give you a private place within that service, you can deploy a CSR on a VM in that service and extend your MPLS WAN to that service. You could perhaps terminate your VPN gateway on that service, so complete VPN across your infrastructure up to the cloud service. Or maybe you just want to redirect to a WAS appliance in there and have WAN acceleration up to your cloud service. Extremely powerful, so everything you can do on a Cisco router delivered on a VM. Fantastic. So secondly, let's think about security. Let's think about that model again of pushing everything out to the internet through one site. Well, what if we could securely break out all of that internet traffic from the branch sites, or even the end users regardless of where they are, and have a cleaned internet? So ScanSafe is a cloud-based internet protection service. And we have a cloud connector, the same as we talked about earlier, that can again be delivered on an ISR G2, and can also be delivered inside the AnyConnect client, which sits on the client devices, and give anybody going through that router, from that client service, ScanSafe protection. So now, you don't care which of your sites your users are at, or what device they're on, as long as they're connecting on AnyConnect VPN, or as long as they're coming in from one of your sites, and they can break out to internet from those sites. And you have the same protection that you had before. And thirdly, let's look at a unified VPN. So those of you familiar with IPsec VPN, you'll be well familiar that doing an any-to-any VPN is frankly a bit difficult. Getting any-to-any at scale is hassle, lots of config. Then we moved on to DMVPN, Dynamic Multipoint VPN. This was great because it made it easy to configure, easy to deploy, and easy to manage. Now we move on to Flex VPN. Flex VPN brings in all that capability about ease of use and deployment, with the new encryption and availability techniques such as IPv2, AES 256, and prime encryption. So this is the next standard for VPN, and enable you to deliver very, very flexible VPN services, any to any, full mesh, with much lower configuration and management overhead. So now, lastly, let's take about how can you simplify your operations to make sure that complexity of moving services to cloud, where you may lose some control, can actually be managed and kept down. First thing you might want to consider is, well, when I do move my services to the cloud, what happens with the things that I can't? There are some things that can't be centralized. There are some things that you want to keep at the edge. How about if you took an ISR G2 and you put in a full unified compute server into that router on a module? Anything you can deploy on a unified compute server, it's a bare metal server, you can now deploy on that edge router. Be it file and print services, be it some sort of caching, or any service that you need to deploy on a server, will allow you to put that into one unit, be fully managed if you're using unified compute in your data center, and yet keep those costs down. No more servers need to be deployed at the edge. So secondly, let's have a look at the real management. So Prime. Prime is the management platform that goes across all of the infrastructure now. And Prime infrastructure will enable you to have visualization, management tools, and deployment tools, and more importantly, modeling tools. One of the really nice things that we can deliver is something through MediaNet. Now in this example, we've got users using video conferencing. Now how about if you really want to predict what the impact of video on your network is going to be, and the effects that it have on the WAN, and your services are moving to different areas, MediaNet techniques that you can use the tools through Prime will enable you to actually model that without ever having to deploy video out there. What's the impact of having 20 users at a branch making 10 video calls at once? Or 30 video calls to a central site, or any combination of those. So MediaNet is a suite of tools, and Prime is the management platform that allows you to see what's going on and to model that very, very easily. And lastly, let's have a look at what about on-demand scale? What about if you don't know what you're going to